Niki was driven to vengeance and tragedy by the actions of so-called heroes. While she might not be as powerful as warriors like Technoblade or as wacky as characters like Mexican Dream, Nihachu is a very important character with her own fascinating lore. There was a time when she was one of the most hopeful members of L'Manberg until people she trusted crushed her dreams. It's pretty heavy stuff. But throughout her journey, your character has also displayed unparalleled determination and a unique perspective on the events of the server. She isn't just some background character, but she's a passionate woman who has sought to mend a crumbling world. She stood up against pet murderers, emperors, and a certain child time and time again. Hi, it's me, Scrolls, and today I'm analyzing Niki Nihachu, her history of forbidden romance, secret cities, nuclear assassinations, and pastries. If you enjoyed this dive into Niki's part of the Dream SMP, make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more in-depth character videos coming soon. I'll be analyzing characters like Ranbu, Wilbur, and more, so stick around. But for now, sit back and grab a slice of cake to snack on as I explore Nihachu's lore, her evolution from a citizen into Nemesis. Niki Nihachu joined the Dream SMP in an era of peace. L'Manberg had just won its independence after defeating the Green Boy Dream, ruler of the greater Dream SMP. Niki joined L'Manberg and quickly became friends with other members, heroes of the war like Wilbur and Tommy, but also Eret the traitor. As part of the new nation, Niki showed her patriotism and created the L'Manberg flag. She also spread kindness by gifting baked goods from the bakery she built. Niki genuinely loved her new home and tried to better it with her sweets and sweeter acts of kindness. However, soon it wasn't just red jam being spilled in our bakery, but the red blood of war. After Sapnap killed Niki's pet Fungi, a gift from her close friend Fundy, Niki and other members were dragged into the first pet war. And here we see that Niki isn't just a polite, quiet baker, but someone unwilling to let injustice slide. In anger, Fundy pushed Niki to kill Sapnap's pet, escalating the conflict into a full war. Eventually, the two sides came to a peace agreement after much fighting, but soon a greater conflict would approach. But before we discuss Niki's rise against tyranny, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Filmora. I switched to it for editing recently, and let me tell you, it's genuinely a great software. Wondershare Filmora is easy to use and super beginner friendly, perfect for if you want to try making YouTube videos like I do. And they've recently launched a bunch of gaming elements, transitions, and sound effects, which are incredibly useful for compilations, let's plays, or wacky video essays about Blockman roleplays. You can make epic thumbnails using Filmora by playing around with its variety of titles, elements, and unique effects. And Wondershare has a plethora of other spectacular features like AR stickers, amazing AI portrait filters, a lot of useful gift stocks, and more. It's a versatile program that lets you create complex edits while still being simple to use. And plus, Filmora is way cheaper than most other editing programs at only $51.99 a year. They even offer a free trial of their program if you're not completely sold on it yet. So if you want to make videos like I do or just want to try cool new software, check out Wondershare Filmora. Click the link in the description to get access to a free trial. L'Manberg held its presidential election, and while Fundy and Niki would try running under the campaign, Coconut 2020, the new president would ultimately be J-Schlatt, and his first act as president? Exiling Tommy and Wilbur, two of Niki's closest friends at the time. During Schlatt's administration, Niki tried to desperately hold on to the goodness of L'Manberg. But in the renamed nation of Manberg, Schlatt and his followers began to make drastic changes and treated Niki without respect.
What do you want?
Well, I mean, for one, the taxes that are due.
You will not get those taxes.
Okay.
Whatever you want from me, you will not get it.
Niki even watched as Fundy burned down the flag she built. Even though he was a spy at the time, this action still really hurt her. She tried to stand up against the aggressive government, but she was imprisoned, pushed aside, and taxed heavily. And at the Manberg festival, Niki was horrified to watch her ally Tubbo be killed by Technoblade at J-Schlatt's command. She tried to rebel against Schlatt once more, but she was ridiculed, almost executed, and she left to join Pogtopia instead. Alongside many others, she would train, prepare, and on the day of the Manberg v Pogtopia war, they would take back their former nation. But then, even after they won and Schlatt was dead, Wilbur would go on to blow up his own nation, and Technoblade would unleash a storm of withers. Niki would watch in confusion and anguish as her home was destroyed before stepping up to help defend. These events would leave her traumatized. When she watched her best friend Wilbur be killed by Philza during the chaos, Niki would deny it. She couldn't believe he would die and repress the memory. After these events, Niki tried her best to return to normal. She was appointed new L'Manberg's Secretary of Treasury, worked on building an underground city to be her safe space, and even went on a date with Captain Puffy.
This is what I planned.
Oh my god!
Their date together was very wholesome, despite the intrusions from some mischievous gremlin children.
Something. A couple miscommunications have led to a DM being sent out that was not meant to be out there. Please, can I borrow your clothes?
Yes.
That's a weird request, Tommy.
The pair's date was a picnic where they shared food and later built a beautiful flower shop together. Puffy gave Niki a promise ring, and the two grew to care about each other very much.
Here, I end off with this.
Oh, it's a promise ring. Oh my god. Okay, I will put it on my hand.
It's beautiful.
Soon, though, Tommy would be exiled for burning down George's house, and slowly Niki would see L'Manberg resemble Schlatt's rule more and more. People would begin to ignore her despite her being the Secretary of Treasury, the government grew aggressive, and she began to blame Tommy for always ruining the nation with his irresponsibility. Niki began to fade from her allegiance to L'Manberg. She attempted to start a new nation with Fundy called Drywaters, but that venture dried out, and instead she focused on her private underground city and escaped from the madness above ground. But the past kept coming back for her, and now she didn't want to just be some helpless citizen anymore. Tommy came back from his exile as the community house was destroyed. Dream and Techno declared war upon L'Manberg and planned to annihilate it.
We've got to save L'Manberg because
L'Manberg.
for L'Manberg.
Tommy was accepted back into his nation, and Niki was outraged as she blamed him for all the disasters left in his wake due to his mistakes.
All your fault. You burned George's house, blamed it on someone else. And now you
Niki, please.
It's literally us against them.
So if you hate me, or if you think I'm the best, which you should, then it doesn't matter. Because L'Manberg's going down. And if we don't stop it.
But once again, she was shut out by the others, ignored. She felt more and more distant and abandoned from her old nation. So when Dream and Techno spawned Withers and ran TNT during Doomsday, Niki didn't decide to keep fighting. She decided to burn down the L'Man tree, a sacred monument. She trusted no one and had lost faith in what was once her home.
It changed. I was willing to be peaceful.
It was never meant to be.
Let's pause on that moment, as I think it reveals some fascinating things about Niki, as simple as that phrase is. The famous line she utters is the same that Eret once said when he betrayed L'Manberg during the revolution.
It was never meant to be.
And the same phrase Wilbur spoke before he blew up his nation.
It was never meant to be.
And while her saying this isn't really noticed by people like Tommy or Tubbo right away, it reflects the emotions of someone who truly experienced the flaws of L'Manberg. Eret never got to live in free L'Manberg. He only wanted power at the time and didn't stand for the ragtag ideals. And Wilbur, while he fought for the nation, he spent much of its time at the nation's very peak, or exiled from it entirely. It was Niki who tried to build her average business and lived through war after war. She was the citizen who believed in the goodness of L'Manberg and had to watch it be torn down by Schlatt's recklessness, Wilbur's TNT, and the Butcher Army's corruption. In some ways, her saying it was never meant to be was the most telling version of that line, because she was the one who tried the hardest to protect the beauty of L'Manberg, yet she chose to burn it down. Letting the flint and steel set the tree on fire, turning the last symbol of peace in the nation to cinders. Niki was clearly branching off into a new side of her personality. Some might even call this the beginning of her villain arc.
I burned the tree. Now, L'Manberg lays in shambles. But this time, it's not the government. It is a lesson that every single one of them had to learn.
After Doomsday, Niki had developed a vendetta against those who stood for L'Manberg, especially Tommy, and she worked with Jack Manifold to plan a way to kill him. She wanted vengeance against someone she saw as a reckless child who had endangered everyone. Working with Jack, she tried to lead Tommy to a nuclear testing site, where he would supposedly be assassinated.
The right way.
No, you actually are acting weird. Like weird. Like Wilbur weird. You remember Wilbur? Suits?
I remember Wilbur. No, can you build up? Are you? Oh my
Oops.
God, Tommy!
Misclick.
On the way there, Tommy constantly annoyed Niki, teasing her and even comparing her to Wilbur. In the end, the timing was off, and they arrived too late for Tommy to be killed by the explosion.
Are you telling me that we were this close to the nuke?
I didn't know that.
Niki became even more reclusive as her mental health degraded more. She obsessed over her underground city, isolating herself and trying to build all the biomes she needed, so she wouldn't need to go out to the surface anymore. After so much anguish, she eventually decided to join the Syndicate after thinking about an offer Technoblade gave her earlier.
I'm gonna leave it behind me. Finally.
In the Syndicate, each member is given a codename from Greek mythology, and Niki's is Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance. Nemesis was known for giving punishment to people with excess pride or evil deeds, a dangerous protector of justice. This seemed to match the spite she felt towards people like Tommy and Schlatt, and those who ignored her. But despite this title, joining the Syndicate suddenly gave Niki a place where revenge didn't consume her. For the first time in forever, she felt like she was part of a group that was accepting of her and willing to listen. She wasn't being talked over, but she was a valued member who could get along with Techno, Philza, and Rambo, all people who felt wronged by the violence of society in the past. She was finally being treated like a friend, a family member, and importantly, an equal. Later, now part of the Syndicate, she hears about how Tommy was killed and resurrected by Dream. This pushes her to reconsider her vengeance against him.
All of this doesn't make me happy. I don't actually want to kill Tommy. He's just a child, and in the end, it's not his fault.
Instead, however, she focuses her hatred on Wilbur, the man she trusted to lead her nation. The man she saw as a leader and friend, but turned out to be a terrorist who wanted to see her home become a crater. And soon Dream resurrects Wilbur. Once again, Niki feels conflicted, but she comes to the conclusion that Wilbur grew to only want power, and manipulated everyone to get his way. She feels firm in her ideals and readies herself for the chaos that Wilbur will surely bring. And that's Niki's history so far, a journey of trauma and loss of hope. While she's survived huge events like Doomsday, I think we can learn a lot about her character through Niki's one-on-one interactions with other characters. Let's dig into Niki's key relationships. First, there's the good, Niki and Puffy. The two women are heartfelt partners, having bonded over their picnic date, through building a flower shop together, and by both having to deal with the rambunctious guys of the server. Their relationship is wholesome, but we see it get stretched thin by their differing loyalties to Tommy and L'Manberg. While during Doomsday, Puffy tried to defend the nation, Niki joined the side of chaos and helped it burn, straining the two's relationship. Niki had tried to assassinate Tommy, while Puffy had tried to do the opposite and protect him. Their relationship shows how politics and differing ideologies can disrupt what is otherwise a beautiful duo.
Puffy doesn't talk to me anymore because we have differences. And I can't tell her that I want to kill the child that she is protecting, which makes it very hard for me.
Thankfully, the two can be seen dancing at the Red Banquet, so hopefully they can mend their past. Meanwhile, Niki's alliance with Jack Manifold is another complicated story. They both joined L'Manberg in its early days, and teamed up to try and assassinate Tommy as the duo known as Team Rocket. However, Niki grew to forgive Tommy while Jack only grew in his vengeance. Jack Manifold acts as Niki's foil, contrasting her mature growth with his brash anger.
You just want to sit here and be an anarchist? How's that going to work out for you when I come and kill the chickens and the cows?
I don't know. I started baking again.
Well, look, I'm really happy for you that you've managed to find things to do. But the thing is, I haven't. I can't just do things. I'll just go and do things while he's around.
He reflects the same fury Niki felt towards Tommy earlier. Another close ally of Niki who was also her foil was Fundy. The two have partnered up many times, whether during the Pet War or in Dry Waters, but differ in many ways. While both have been often overlooked by L'Manberg's members, Fundy was constantly changing himself, trying to appeal to authority. He tried to please Schlatt by burning Niki's flag and joined Tubbo's butcher army. He always seemed to be trying on new roles and new sides of wars. This contrasts Niki's steadiness in her ideals. She tried to cling to L'Manberg's hopeful origins for as long as she could, even if it meant going against leadership. Then when she left it, she was set on her vengeance against Tommy, firm and nearly obsessive in her ideals. Niki has said before that she doesn't trust Fundy due to his constantly shifting allegiances, showing how she's grown to value consistency and loyalty, which brings her to odds with none other than Wilbur. Wilbur was once a patriotic hero, but over the course of his exile, he morphed into someone who simply craved destruction. He abandoned his L'Manberg loyalties, getting TNT from Dream to blow up his old nation. And for the longest time, we see Niki struggle with this new Wilbur. She can't accept this change in his ideals, even after he dies. Niki actually wears Wilbur's old coat, and for a long time she doesn't believe he was killed, dismissing people who claim that Ghostbur roams the server. She clings to the old coat, hoping that the good of L'Manberg can still return, and wears it in his remembrance. And when Wilbur is revived, Niki must question her naive sentiments. She realizes the horror of Wilbur's fall from grace, how he didn't care about people anymore after being exiled, and how he only wanted to see a grand theater of nations fighting each other.
Why would Dream revive him? Dream was his enemy. We fought against Dream, all of us. Two maniacs, leading countries, leading places and people, and forgetting about the people that they care about just for power. Just for power. This is what you did for power.
She began to wear his old coat as a sign of defiance instead. This anger she feels against Wilbur helps reveal Niki's fatal flaw. She holds back her emotions to the point that they take a toll on her mind, and when they are unleashed, they center on a single person. She blames an individual for all the issues they have hurt her with, whether or not they are really the one who caused everything. First she holds a grudge on Tommy, then later on Will. Living through L'Manberg's history exposed Niki to too much trauma, and she shut herself in, not wanting to be hurt by any more destruction. At one point she stayed inside her underground city, suffering from insomnia and lacking the urge to eat. She would simply jump off a ledge, die, respawn, then get back to work, trying to dull her mental pain. What was once a hopeful baker became an anguished hermit, scarred by the death and betrayal that always seemed to follow her. But hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel. With joining the syndicate and learning to forgive Tommy, Niki has made steps to improve, aspiring to go back into baking and setting out to live peacefully in her city. With all she has faced, she's proven to be one of the most resilient members, not backing down to Schlatt or Tommy or even to her own demons. Moving forward won't be as easy as pie, but with proper support and mindset, someone like Niki can be a force to be reckoned with. Niki's character is so remarkable because it reminds us of all the people who happen to live in the lands where heroes, villains, and monsters battle. She is the artist who watches spies burn down her creations, the citizen who is forced to live in the aftermath of a blown-up nation, the shopkeeper whose business is driven out by corrupt emperors, the woman trying to go on a date while a rebel child almost starts a war. Without a character like her, the actions of heroes and titans like Techno or Tommy seem more black and white, more distant. Niki's struggles reveal the mortal, human middle ground, and the consequences on civilian populations that world-ending events like Doomsday have. She isn't the disciple of a blood god or some afterlife escaping ghost, but a normal person with messy emotions, trying to survive amongst the brutality of endless wars. And through Niki's struggles, we can better understand the impact other characters have on the rest of the Dream SMP society. Nihachu's perspective is one of a citizen, a vigilante, a baker, and often of someone just trying to live in the crazy world of the Dream SMP. And I think that perspective is just as important as any other.